Today on the Topic Show, Candace Owens vs. Steven Crowder 2.0 heats up. Planet Fitness boycott also increases as news of a registered sex offender taking pictures at the gym go viral. Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse after a ship turns into it, causing speculation all week. New York City prepaid debit card program for migrants turns out to have been a no-bid contract. Dollar Tree to introduce $7 items. McDonald's extends their Krispy Kreme partnership. China's EV company BYD profits are up 80%. And Subaru to recall 118,000 vehicles. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. I gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Dollar Tree to introduce $7 items, which is unprecedented. Not to be cliche, but back in the day, the dollar store and the Dollar Tree used to mean all the items were $1, which, unfortunately, thanks to the U.S. government ineptitudes on the left and the right, we have 40-year hyperinflation, and $1 is worth basically nothing. It is cliche to say, but yeah, back in the day, a dollar could get you quite a bit. Now, not so much. So these bargain stores are struggling. How could they increase their sales and increase their market share? Well, one way is to introduce new items at a higher price point. Now, this comes to us thanks to ABC7. They know that the Dollar Tree is now going to increase their maximum price to items at $7 per item. Now, it looks like that will be kicking in this year. The CEO, and again, the Dollar Tree, they're also the parent company behind, they also bought out Family Dollar. So the two biggest ones, or that was the third biggest one. So they own each other, or Dollar Tree bought out Family Dollar. The biggest competitor being Dollar General. Now, CEO of Dollar Tree, Rick Dreeling, said that during an earnings call, they were doing this in an attempt to increase due to their target focus increasing to expand to a wealthier customer base. Now, they actually say that the fastest growing consumer demographic, people shopping at their stores, are people who are earning at least $125,000 per year, which is actually kind of quite concerning to think that. Well, truth be told, the government steals about 40% of your federal income tax, and depending on what state you live in, that's another 8 to 10% or more. I think it's 12.8% in California. Don't quote me on that one though. But yeah, people are being taxed to death, and we're gonna have to look at what's another alternative. One is budget shopping. Now, this is probably not going to be the biggest controversy in terms of I don't think there's going to be a backlash or a boycott or anything by that means, because they are introducing new products to the store, and unfortunately some of the other older products will probably be bumped up to the $7 price point. Now, the biggest backlash that I've seen them was when they actually raised their prices, I think it was about 3 years ago during the pandemic, which again, unprecedented time for business and the country and a lot of people. You had supply chain issues, and China shut down factories, which is one of the worst things they could ever have done, because so many businesses have subsequently moved their manufacturing because the risk of, well, what if the government just shuts down the business? Now, 3 years ago, Dollar Tree actually raised the price of every item in the store from $1 to $1.25, which was detrimental to a lot of people's budgets. Now, that being said, there was a big boycott then, and people revolted, and they tried to find other alternatives. But when it comes to them trying to introduce $7 items, I think the CEO is probably spot on. They'll probably be able to get a couple of more of those folks in the new target demographic they're going after, and it'll allow them to bring in items at that price point that they would not have previously been able to do so. Though, let me know, do you think there's going to be backlash from this? When was the last time you actually shopped at a Dollar Tree? Truth be told, I as a youth might say, I felt like a baller. Was it Q4 last year when I actually went to the Dollar? Yeah, it was the Dollar Tree, and I bought like 2 or 3 carts of candy just for clients and just to thank them for during the Christmas season and thank them for working throughout the year. And that was a fun shopping spree. I think I got the longest receipt ever in their history at that store. But let me know, when was the last time you shopped there, and do you plan on going back anytime soon? Other interesting business news, you have McDonald's extending their Krispy Kreme partnership, which, again, is fantastic news for both companies because there are very few things in the world. Perhaps grains of sand. There are more grains of sand in the world than McDonald's locations, but not by much. I'm only partially kidding there. Now, this comes to us thanks to Bobby Armstrong on LinkedIn News. And McDonald's said that they will offer Krispy Kreme donuts at all of its U.S. locations by the end of 2026, which is actually extending their previous partnership, which began in 2022. You have the CEO, Josh Charleston, said Krispy Kreme expects to more than double the points of access by 2026, a strategy that has seen the donuts sold in about 6,800 third-party stores already. For McDonald's, the largest fast food operator in the U.S., the deal is part of an aggressive expansion campaign announced recently as the company grapples with pushback from consumers because of higher prices menus. Or, if I wasn't dyslexic, it would be higher menu prices, and I would actually be able to speak and articulate myself a little bit better. Which goes back to my old theory. If you click the subscribe button, I think it could help with my speaking ineptitudes. Now, granted, it's just a theory, but when I started the show, very few subscribers stumble over my words even more, and believe it or not, spoke a lot faster. Granted, some might argue some modicum improvement, but I think it's been a little bit. So if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, again, McDonald's desperately needs to bring out some new products, and I can't but fathom what the profit margins on those donuts are probably really darn aggressive, considering it's mostly air when you look at the actual manufacturing and how much heavy real ingredients and real substance is there to a traditional Krispy Kreme donut. I was expecting it to be a highly profitable item, and McDonald's can afford to sell it at an aggressive price point. But again, McDonald's is at probably one of the worst situations where hyperinflation has hit them the hardest. Also, minimum wage laws have caused many McDonald's to lay off employees, especially in California, where they increased the minimum wage from $16 an hour to $20 per hour at fast food locations. That actually begins April 1st. That's not a joke, although some might argue it's a cruel joke for small businesses and franchise owners. But they've been trying to think of how could we make our companies, stay afloat, and what other options could we add on, which McDonald's has had some weird ideas out there. They even had pasta at one time. And I believe in Europe you can still get wine at McDonald's, interestingly enough. But donuts seems like it'd be a complimentary item. Although, personally, I don't know how many times I ever think hamburger and donut. But granted, you also have the people who go there for the McDonald's coffee and the early morning breakfast, which, truth be told, I don't think I've had since middle school or elementary school. It's been quite a time to say the least. Let me know, does this inspire you to go to McDonald's? Are you excited to have that option when you go to shop there next? And when's the last time you actually went to a traditional brick and mortar dedicated location, Krispy Kreme? I remember growing up, that was a special occasion. We got to see the cool machines and brilliant marketing. You actually got to see the donut go along the conveyor belt and see it covered with the cream. It was, drew in crowds for years until, the Atkins diet? There's a particular diet that kind of kneecapped that company for a couple years. But as always, let me know. It'll be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Chinese-owned BYD profits skyrocketed by 80%. Now, BYD is one of the largest electric car manufacturers some people may have never heard of. They're extremely large in China, which makes sense. They're headquartered there. That's where the majority of the manufacturing takes place. And it looks like their profits increased 80% the same year they overtook Tesla by number of vehicles produced, which is quite an achievement to say the least. They say, thanks to CNN Business, that the net profit almost doubled to 30 billion yuan. Not my friend, but specifically Juan? No. I said it right the first time. Partially digress. That correlates with the U.S. Oh, granted, it's like the exchange rates fluctuate like a stock market, but at the time of this recording, the article says it was worth about 4.2 billion American dollars, which is equivalent to $1 million in monopoly money. It's all fiat currency. But they also said that there's an increase from 2.3 billion in 2022. The Shenzhen-based company said earlier this week on Tuesday, which is in terms of production, that's where it's really impressive. In 2023 as a whole, BYD sold a record 3.02 million vehicles globally, up 62% from 2022. That figure includes 1.44 million plug-in hybrids that Tesla does not sell. Now, Elon Musk car maker still sold more BEVs last year at 1.8 million to BYD's 1.57 million. And the thing that's going to be really detrimental for the automotive companies in the United States is BYD could win 8 days a week when it comes to being an aggressive price point. I mean, China has one of the most attractive business environments. It's very low regulation. It has very low cost for energy. They have a lot of coal plants that are being constructed every single day. Well, they're not being completed in a single day, but you get what I was trying to say here. And Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, also warned that BYD is going to come to the U.S. and is going to be detrimental for a lot of the U.S. car manufacturers, especially the big three. The big three being General Motors, Ford, as well as Chrysler. Well, Chrysler, they went bankrupt so bad they're now known as Stellantis, and they're headquartered out of Europe. But the big three also had the most expensive labor thanks to the United Auto Workers contract that negotiated in 2023. And again, it looks like as soon as these start flooding the market, I don't know. There's a lot of speculations. If Trump wins, he is very much in favor of businesses, foreign entities, and imports being tariffed, or slapping on a tax on it, which he did with the raw materials, such as I believe it was aluminum and steel in a couple of years ago when he was in office. And again, that's one mechanism you could use to protect local entities. However, at the same time, you have people in the U.S. who are saying, "Hey, we just need some cheap electric vehicles." And all they care about is adoption rates. And if you want 100%, well, you'll never get 100% adoption rate on anything, except, well, not even with taxes. There are some people who don't pay those. But nevertheless, I mean, some of these vehicles, the cheapest Tesla is $39,000 before tax. And granted, I know that certain states and federal incentives also kick in, but it looks like the entry-level vehicle for BYD is $10,000. And they're still making a profit on that. Now, granted, with tariffs and import fees, maybe when it comes to the U.S., it'd be significantly more. There's a reason certain vehicles never make it into the U.S., thanks to partially bureaucracy, but also laws and import fees. But, yeah, it looks like the average car industry record profit was 5% compared to 5.7%. So throughout the years, the profit margin has been decreasing. So in 2021, the average profit margin for a vehicle was 6.1%, then dropped down to 5.7%, then 5% in 2023. So the industry's, remember, when people are buying cars, a lot of people are complaining, "Oh, I'm spending $20,000, $30,000 over MSRP." All that money goes directly to the dealerships, which are, I was going to say mom and pop shops. Realistically, there are a couple large entities that there's a whole business industry in and of itself that own dealerships, but the manufacturer doesn't realize any of that revenue. They don't get any of that money. They just get whatever the dealership paid for it. So let me know in the comments, would you ever buy or would you ever drive a BYD vehicle? And do you care if it's imported from China? Would you pay more to have it manufactured here? And how detrimental do you think this could be to U.S. manufacturing? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the Culture Pod podcast, you have Planet Fitness trending for having a sex offender as a membership, as well as the individual he was also taking pictures. So, not great news. The company is being boycotted more and more for being controversial, especially in the United States, where the policy that they are very proud of and promulgating is they allow you to use whatever restroom you want based on how you identify. And in the U.S., especially, that's a very controversial thing, and especially because when you consider there are children that go into these restrooms, these locker rooms, and you have adults changing. And this controversy really brewed to the surface when you had a biological male shaving in the women's locker room in front of her name eludes me at the moment, but a nice old lady, and there's also a child in the room. And the old lady confronted the gentleman and said, "Hey, you don't belong here." And the gentleman claimed to be part of the LGBT QIA alliance or team. And the lady went to the management and she said, "Hey, I have a concern. There's a full-grown man in the women's locker room with children there, and he's shaving." And instead of vindicating her and saying, "Hey, this isn't appropriate to be in front of a child," quite the opposite happened. They actually banned her membership for bringing that to their attention. And we've seen employee handbooks leak where the company policy is if you misgender someone, you're supposed to apologize, and you may be fired for that if you're an employee. And if you're a member, the same applies as well. So they have been going viral on social media, not in a good way. And even, you saw this very similar phenomenon with Bud Light, where they went radio silent on social media for a couple months. And it was so bad, people would go back to the old post, and as a youth might say, ratio them by giving comments that are really just critiquing their business ideas. Or I guess this might be a cultural idea. I'm not sure how you classify it from Planet Fitness, but let's pull up to their stock market. I mean, the company's still 6-month increased by 29%, which usually hindsight's always 20/20 when it comes to investing. And in the past month, it's down about 5.67%. Now, granted, you always have to be careful when it comes to single variable analysis. I'm not saying it's all attributed to this negative publicity, because again, there are some people who will buy a Planet Fitness membership because of this policy. Now, I would debate, and I believe that if you look at the breakdown of the demographics of who goes to the gym, and Planet Fitness isn't. Some people debate it's not really a gym because you're not supposed to work hard, or they don't really want you to push yourself. I still don't think short term that's going to be good for their finances. I think they will alienate more people than they gain in terms of new membership. Though I would be fascinated to hear, because again, the U.S. is a very diverse country. Maybe your area of the U.S. they're actually increasing their membership and they're actually doing better because of this. I mean, let me know. I'd be really fascinated to hear either way if they're doing worse or better. Because again, it is fascinating to see how the U.S., even though we're one country, some states can be completely opposite when it comes to policies and culture. Now, again, it looks like their 52-week high is still $84.48 per share for their stock. 52-week low is actually $43.13 per share. And it looks like all the major news articles, when I go on Google and Brave, they're all still referencing these controversial things that have been happening when it comes to their restroom policies. Now, going back to this specific instance, now this was brought to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, and as youth might say, viral to say the least, got 2.9 million views, as well as 32,000 likes within the first 48 hours of posting earlier this week. Now, Libs of TikTok, she says, quote, Planet Fitness claims its member safety is a priority. So why did they allow Adam Yindana, a known sex offender, to become a member at their gym? Adam followed a woman around Planet Fitness and took pictures of her. His membership wasn't revoked until women filed a police report. Is this how Planet Fitness ensures their members' safety? Unquote. Which, yeah, that's not a good thing to be known for, to say the least. Now, interestingly enough, I'm not sure how many clubs actually do background checks when it comes to that kind of stuff. I mean, considering they have public facilities that include restrooms and changing rooms, they'd probably be prudent of them to do that. But I don't know if Planet Fitness is unique in the fact that they allowed one of those people to actually register as a member and they didn't really do a background check. Now, the fact he was walking around the gym taking pictures of women, I can't help but fathom how no one locally stopped that. Like, because again, I mean, more often than not, well, at least in Texas, that would not stand, and the man would be made fun of and subsequently probably tossed out, because again, it's just not appropriate. Now, going to the comments, one of the first ones comes from Elon Musk, who simply had 2 exclamation points. That got 3.7 thousand likes. Let's see here. And going to Paul Zazupa, he says, quote, not only does Planet Fitness not protect the safety of their female members, Planet Fitness actively takes steps to ensure that they are threatened. They force women to share bathrooms with men. This is sexual assault. And now we find out Planet Fitness is allowing known sex offenders to be members, unquote. They got 850 likes. Now, it looks like that complaint was from 2023. There's a lot of things coming unearthed from the graveyard of Planet Fitness. Pismo says, quote, this is from 2023, so it seems like Planet Fitness has been complacent in grooming children for some time now, and they're still doing it. And that was a screenshot of a tweet from Redux, and they say, quote, a man has been arrested in connection to multiple indecent exposure incidents in a women's locker room at Planet Fitness in Georgia. Staff said that Jacoby Dixon had a right to use the women's facilities even after exposing himself to a teenage girl. Let me reread that because it's so morally and mentally vacuous, perhaps you didn't comprehend it. A man had been arrested in connection to multiple indecent exposure incidents in a women's locker room at a Planet Fitness in Georgia. Staff said that Jacoby Dixon had a right to use the women's facilities even after exposing himself to a teenage girl. Unquote. And that got 1.5 thousand likes. Which, again, this is something where wind back the clock even 5 years ago or 6 years ago would have been unthinkable. You're exposing yourself to a child that's so morally vacuous, I could barely talk. Well, granted, you might joke and say I could barely talk in general. Fair. But I can't believe the staff said, oh yeah, he has a right to do that. And again, there are some people who agree with this. Anecdotally speaking, I haven't met any of them, but you see them online. They're very active and proud. I mean, but let me know, have you ever met someone in the real world who is really promulgating that is a good idea? Now you also have Random Libs. And it says also Planet Fitness. And is a picture of a very creepy looking gentleman with a t-shirt, well, trench coat. The t-shirt says vote D, a trench coat, and he has an old timey camera walking into the women's restroom. He says, "Relax, lady, I'm transgender." That got 1.1 thousand likes. You have Gunther Eagleman saying, quote, "The sooner Planet Fitness goes into bankruptcy, the safer women will be." I'm quoting 2.2 thousand likes. Let's see here. Emergent Perspectives says, quote, "Apparently criminals have caught under the fact that Planet Fitness will allow you in, defend you no matter who you are." And it is a news clip of the New York Post. And the New York Post says, quote, "Inmate who escaped prison nearly 4 months ago captured leaving a Planet Fitness 200 miles away." They got 309 likes. Yeah, Libercat Media TM saying, quote, "They are all in on this policy. Check it out. Equinox, LA Fitness, YMCA 24-hour. And there's a says, etc. Allow all men in women's spaces. Women are not safe at public chain gyms anywhere. Cancel your membership immediately, and either work out at home or find a local gym." And this is, I took a picture of a placard now. I mean, this isn't something where they just printed it out on good old fashioned, 8 by 11, what is it, 8.5 by 11 printer paper. Oh no, LA Fitness paid for that's a high quality placard. I mean, it's got multicolor. Not, I was about to say embroidery. That's for shirts. It has a multicolor ink on it. So that's not cheap. And LA Fitness has their logo on there, multicolor logo. And it says LA Fitness, and it says transgender individuals may use the locker room associated with the gender with which they identify, unquote. Grammatically, that also sounds awkward as hell. That did get 602 likes. Let's see here. Branos says, quote, "A judgment-free zone should not mean allowing predators to have access to women." And it's the Planet Fitness logo with their cliche thumbs up saying, quote, "We're just trying to be inclusive, guys." And the trad guys saying, quote, "You're just trying to be inclusive of creepy guys," and quote, getting 587 likes. Let's see here. A couple of people bringing up the stock market and that's decline. American Archer says, quote, "Is this how Democrats and the media ensure equality and protection for women?" And there's a picture of, what is that fake, that swimmer with the swimmer who identified, he was 400 and 500th best swimmer in the male category, but then became number one in the female category when decided to identify as such. And what was it? Got 551 likes for that picture on the podium. Let's see here. Scrolling down, you got one bad dude saying, quote, "Planet wokeness deserves everything they get," unquote, getting 287 likes. Let's see here. Matthew J. Show says Planet Fitness is just run by idiots, unquote, getting 113 likes. Old School Eddie says, quote, "It seems Planet Fitness is only interested in cash and wokeness. The safety is not even on their radar," unquote, getting 116 likes. Scrolling down here. I'm trying to find any contrarian statements. I haven't seen them thus far. Let's see. Ed Reiner simply says they should rename themselves to Planet FU. That's pretty much how they feel about their female members, unquote, getting 95 likes. Kathy Brock NP says, quote, "Planet Fitness is headed for bankruptcy," unquote, getting 43 likes, which I don't think so. Again, if this happened in January or December, maybe. I mean, that's where an overwhelming majority of the revenue and sales come when it comes to the fitness industry because of New Year's resolutions. But again, I mean, they've got all that money. They're good. You'll have some sales throughout the year, but it pales in comparison to January. So I don't think they're going to go bankrupt. I mean, boycotts are so short-lived. This has got a lot more. It's been trending much more than other boycotts that kind of fizzled out. But I don't know. Do you think it'll be so bad their finances will actually have to declare bankruptcy? Again, the stock has gone down, but it hasn't cratered to, because again, their 52-week low is like $44 per share, give or take. I mean, it's not even at an all-time low when it comes to their stock. So, I mean, in terms of PR, they're doing terribly. I mean, they are getting ratioed, as you might say, left or right. But again, their stock is relatively stable. It's only down a little bit. It's not at an all-time low. But let me know, do you think they'll actually have to fold up shop because of this? I mean, mean, the boycott would have to heat up exponentially. And again, it's staying viral, but how many people are also realistically, are they actually canceling their memberships, or are they just kind of disgusted, but they still go anyway? Because again, it's a different product experience versus the Bud Light beer, which is very easy to boycott. There's a whole shelf of beer next to it. You just, all it takes to boycott that is moving your hand a couple inches to the left or right and picking out a better case of beer, which is pretty much impossible not to do. I mean, anything's better than that. But nevertheless, when it comes to gyms, there may only be one gym in your town. There may very well only be one or two. And maybe you don't have the finances or the square footage or the resources available to actually have your home gym, or maybe because you're healthy, you can't just go outside and run. I mean, it's not the best thing for your joints to be on the concrete all day. I understand that. Or is it cement? One of the two. But as always, let me know. I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Candace Owens versus Steven Crowder 2.0, perhaps? Now, this comes after a former co-host at Louder Crowder's Jared Monroe did a GoFundMe to apparently fight an NDA he signed. There's a lot of people covering this topic, and it looks like I don't have enough information or direct information either way. I mean, NDAs are pretty common. I work in IT, so there's very things I do without getting an NDA when it comes to an end user or working with a business. So it's one of those things where it's pretty common for most businesses. Same with non-competes, though courts, depending on the industry, are kind of moving away in favor of non-competes, but also those are also pretty common. And Candace Owens caught wind that Jared Monroe is trying to raise money for his legal fight against his former employer, Steven Crowder, Louder Crowder. And Candace says, quote, "Everything Jared Monroe is saying is true, and he is one of many people who has been enduring this legal abuse for years. Crowder's ex-wife and family and virtually all of his former employees, including Dave Landau, should similarly find the courage to speak out," unquote. And Candace went viral to say the least. She got 1.1 million views, but only 9.3 thousand likes earlier this week. And the numbers had time to brew. All these statistics I wrote down 24 hours after she originally posted it. So it's not like it was 2 seconds after she posted it. I mean, that actually might be one of the lowest like ratios since, well, nothing's worse than Chris Christie's social media. We covered that. That was a hilarious phenomenon in which we dubbed it the Chris Christie effect. He actually had instances where Chris Christie would tweet something and he'd have 0 positive responses, which is almost mathematically impossible, presumably because he has family, friends, allegedly a campaign staff when he was running for the Republican nominee. And yet there are 2 times where he had 0 positive comments. Now here, as this has become kind of a political or cultural issue in the Republican or Conservative Party, or social media spheres and media companies, I suspect the comments will probably be 50-50 split in terms of who's supporting who, supporting Candace Owens versus Steven Crowder. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 100% ratio. Just have in the comments and find out. Now, one of the first ones is Candace replying to her own comment. She says, quote, "I will have Hillary Crowder on my new show, going to reach out and see if I can get her," unquote, getting 3.6 thousand likes, which I was going to say that's Steven Crowder's former wife he's going through a divorce with. And again, I just read it on, I believe, I'm not sure if Gerald posted it, but on social media it was found that she's getting about $24,000 a month in alimony, apparently. I should say allegedly. I just saw it on X Twitter. But yeah, $24,000 per month. Dear God. Now, granted, they do have 2 children together, but that is a pretty penny to say the least. Well, I should clarify. A vintage pennies, the amount of pennies are just 99.99% zinc, also known as garbage. They're just copper plated, which is perhaps a apt metaphor for U.S. currency. Partially digress. You also have Nice Guy P saying, quote, "This is a bad path to go down. I'm a big fan, but I don't think this is wise decision. There are glaring issues with this. If there is no consideration to sign an NDA, it's unenforceable, period. End of story. NDAs and non-competes are a basic part of any employment." Well, he goes on for a paragraph here, but he got a lot of views for this, so I'll continue the whole thing. So he says, part of any employment, as far as waivers of claim, quote, "Even as a lawyer, I naively trusted my ex-employer and let him depart without an NDA or waiver of claim. A few months later, the moment the severance ended, my name was being smeared, my clients were being poached, and this person sued my company for an ownership stake. A complete frivolous lawsuit. Had I not been a lawyer, I probably would have spent $25,000 to defend it. I filed a counterclaim and got the case to go away for $0 at the mediation phase after a neutral third party saw through the scheme that's going on. This guy's intentions are transparent. When a disgruntled ex-employee starts citing, quote, mental health and his, quote, pregnant wife, allowing God to lead him and free speech, there's a good indication he doesn't have any real facts or real evidence. He's playing on your emotions. I thought you were one of the leading proponents of sounding an alarm on people manipulating others with so-called emotion. I really hope you don't go down the same path with your departure from Daily Wire, Candace. This reeks of weakness and victimhood. I thought that was everything you were against. Considering the entire Crowder beef originated from his criticism of the Daily Wire, it doesn't make any sense for you to kick up this old dirt. I see you as a journalist, a storyteller, and a leader, not as a gossip tabloid blogger. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. I think very highly of you. I hate how you've been treated, but going down this rabbit hole is only going to derail your ascent to being one of the most influenced voices of our country, unquote. Quite a few words to say the least, but that did get 313 likes, which is, again, one of the top responses to Candace Owens. You also have Tim the Toolman saying, quote, hey, tune in tomorrow, Candace. Maybe you'll learn something, unquote. Getting 656 likes, which, spoiler alert, they did. If you tuned in, you did. They show that, apparently Jared, he's been trying to sue the company for quite some time and breaking the NDA, and apparently he's been kicking up the dirt or bringing up this thing. Because again, the employment ceased about 6 years ago. It's quite some time. And apparently he's also teaming up with Steven Zacks, and there's a lot of unusual things happening, to say the least. You also have this interview saying, we love Steven Crowder, getting 40 likes. Stephen Hasty said, quote, excited for what is next for you, Candace, getting 48 likes. You have Joy Gaskin saying, quote, anyone notice the title of Jared's video is I Don't Want to Do This, titled after the video Crowder made to expose Big Con, unquote, getting 59 likes. You have Midwest Guy 88 saying, quote, so many conservative pundits all going down the same time during the election season, not suspicious at all, unquote, getting 91 likes. Well, actually, no. 92 likes. Well, spoiler alert, that last one was from me. But, yeah, there's a lot of drama in conservative media when, in terms of the timing, probably the worst timing for them to not be united, especially considering the election this year, which is going to be paramount for many things and many reasons. You also have, well, if I could use the screen properly, you have Stephen Haas official saying, quote, a simple solution to this is if you want a job at a company and they're trying to make you sign an NDA, don't sign it and don't take the job. It's literally that simple. If they come to you and they tell you to sign an NDA before you quit or they let you go, don't sign it. It's literally that simple. I'm getting 56 likes. Scrolling back, you got a couple more. You have Owen Benjamin saying, quote, I told people all about it and was called jealous because apparently I secretly wanted to wear dresses and own the left like Crowder. The main reason I went so hard at Crowder was that he was doing to people who couldn't talk. What he was doing to people who couldn't talk. And his dumb baby boomer fans called me schizophrenic. Good to see this coming out, unquote. I got 326 likes. Let's see here. Julu Vibes says, quote, always got bad vibes from Crowder. Never enjoyed his content. Quote, getting 17 likes. Amber Champagne says, quote, this is a year of eye-opening circumstances everywhere. Getting, unquote, getting 17 likes. Woke Golden Boy says, quote, Landau went way in depth months ago with Michael Malice. Am I the only one watching? You're welcome, unquote. Getting 19 likes, which that is the show program that Michael Malice hosts. Interesting name for a show. It's called You're Welcome. Let's see. MiddleMaga.com says, quote, I can't believe you're still going at Crowder after getting fired from the Daily Wire. Just leave the Crowder stuff alone. You're on a good roll. Unquote, getting 10 likes, which, again, they've had verbal sparring sessions for years. They've gone back and forth on social media. Candace covers Steven a lot, to say the least. Do a couple more here. You have Misinformation saying, quote, this is insufferably boring. Why are we supposed to care about him? I'm cooking 7 likes. Now, interestingly enough, and of course, NX Twitter, Crowder is trending, as youth might say, with this being one of the main topics. Now, kind of curious to see what his fundraising has got to when it comes to, he even bought the domain freejaredmonroe.com. So it looks like Jared has raised $76,000, or sorry, $76,456 of his $100,000 goal. How quickly? Created in 2 days? Jeez Louise. That is a pretty penny to say the least. Let's see here. And of course, his video on Twitter got 6.7 million views, but only 17,000 likes, which is pitifully. I mean, that ratio is low to say the least. I mean, very low. Maybe we'll cover that. Maybe we'll cover that a little bit later. But looks like in terms of the comments specifically on Candace's take on the situation, looks to be around 50, maybe a 60-40 split supporting Candace. But granted, a wise man once said sunlight is the best disinfectant. We'll see how much of this information is actually made available to the public, and we'll see, at the end of the day, what side are people going to choose. But let me know. I mean, it seems to be an interesting situation. As always, I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have New York City prepaid debit cards for migrants kicks off. Turns out to be a no-bid contract. Now, this comes to us thanks to the New York Post from Craig McCartney, and they say that, quote, New York City begins handing out prepaid debit cards to migrants in controversial program. Now, it looks like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, launched its program to give prepaid debit cards to New York City migrants this week, 2 weeks after taking a controversial no-bid $53 million contract for the deal. Really? Now, spoiler alert for people who they don't bid on government contracts, so they're not that part of that business world. An overwhelming, pretty much, trying to think of how many instances there weren't no-bid contracts. Pretty much every situation, there's a contract situation where they open up to the public and any business can bid on it. And contrary to popular belief, the military is one of the most effective mechanisms when it comes to budgeting. And you look at all the rifles when they do bid out for it. The age-old saying used to be, never forget your rifle is constructed by the lowest bidder. Because again, you have all these companies, they submit their bids, and more often than not, they choose a more economical one. That's one of the reasons why SIG won the pistol contract for the U.S. military. Glock performed a little bit better, but is a lot more expensive. And granted, the cost per unit might not be too much, but the cost does add up in aggregate when you buy thousands of units. Now, to have this be a no-bid contract for that much money, that's almost unheard of. The only time I've heard of a no-bid contract that you could maybe argue makes sense was when you had the U.S. war on terror after 9/11, and there's some instances where Halliburton got no-bid contracts because you could argue, I suppose, that it was a national emergency, you didn't have time to go through it, but even that was pretty controversial because Dick Cheney was a former CEO of Halliburton before he became the vice president, or president, depending on who you're talking to. So it's very few instances I can actually think of or reminisce where the no-bid contract made sense. I mean, an overwhelming majority of the time, you're selling to the government, it's bid out. Now, again, $53 million? Now, it looks like staffers at the New Jersey company Mobile Capital Finance handed out 8 preloaded MasterCards at the Roosevelt Hotel Monday earlier this week as part of its pilot program that will expand to 115 cards by next week, according to City Hall spokesperson. The one-year deal came under fire after the Post revealed that the contract was inked without a typical bidding process. The program could be a boon for the tech startup, giving the potential to net $1.8 million by taking a cut of the funds loaded on each MasterCard according to the contract. The administration scaled back the original plan, which would have loaded up cards with a month's worth of money for food and baby supplies, or whatever you want, because it's a MasterCard or an EBT card or a Snap card. Like, you can go to Walmart, they have pretty much everything there. They also noted that cash will now needed to be replenished each week. A family with 2 parents and kids under 5 will receive $350 per week. Now, the Post was unable to track down any of the migrant families who received the cards on Monday. Even the staffers at the Roosevelt Hotel said they weren't aware the cards had been handed out. Now, it looks like the pilot program will cover 460 out of the 64,500 migrants at the city square as City Hall evaluates its success. When asked for, spokesperson Kayla Malamick, she said, quote, this cost-saving measure will replace the city's current system of providing non-perishable food boxes to migrant families staying in hotels, much of which is discarded, unquote. But what would be easier to keep track of in terms of ensuring it's only used for food dropping off food or prepaid cards. Which again, even if you, I mean, you can also, there is a whole underground community where they'll just people buy those cards at a discount, so you can give them cash and you get the cards for food. Now, it looks like City Hall says that the new process of getting asylum seekers fed could save up to $600,000 per month. Now, the Adams administration said that the emergency contract was necessary to avoid delays in rolling out the cost-saving program, which I don't want to say I'm suspicious, but when was the last time a city tried to save money? Like, ever? Like, the military tries to save money. They bid out contracts when it comes to a lot of the arms and services that they go for, that they need. But, I mean, cities saving money, it's not unheard of, but you hear about it like once every couple of years. Now, it looks like despite that, it took 2 months before any of the prepaid cards were handed out. And City Hall, of course, dodged questions when it comes to delay, only saying that the rollout was on schedule. Now, granted, the most entertaining things in life are usually in the comments section, so we'll go ahead and dive there. LH said, quote, 8 MasterCards in that crowd. All that's going to do is cause chaos. What exactly is the point? They all seem to have decent phones, clothes, and some even managed to buy cars. And even though I'm sure they're not insured, so why do they need our money? I'm quoting 88 likes. Coop says, quote, Mr. Mayor, there are homeless veterans all over New York City that risk their lives for your freedom. Those are the people that deserve a prepaid debit card, not those who break our laws and expect handouts. I'm quoting 409 likes. Which, yeah, I was going to say, that's one of the biggest discrepancies people have been talking about is, oh yeah, we have potholes and terrible infrastructure in the United States, but we give away trillions to other countries. And we have homeless veterans, we have homeless American citizens in the streets, and yet we look at the resource allocation. A lot of the new resource allocation is going to illegal migrants or illegal immigrants. You also have someone by the name of Norman Grice being responded to Coop saying, but they don't vote for the left, so they don't count, and quoting 161 likes. TB Toes says, quote, New York City homeless are warehoused in corrugated shelters and share bathrooms with strangers. Their rooms have no televisions or air conditioners. This class of newcomers, unquote, unquote, is staying in high-end hotels with every amenity, even paid services. So these cash cards should come as no surprise. Fancy pets in fancy hotels. I'm quoting 161 likes. John Pepera responded saying, quote, so long as they vote Democrat, they will. I'm quoting 30 likes. Do one or two more comments here. Zatzu Pitts says, quote, people need to eat, but somehow these folks were able to throw away the food they were given and somehow still survive. Why give them money? They were able to eat on their own dime without consuming those food boxes, so why do they need taxpayers' money to eat? Unquote, getting 168 likes. TG Bubba responded saying, quote, how else do you expect the company that got a no-bid contract to kick back money to the mayor? Unquote, getting 77 likes. New York Truth said, quote, a no-bid contract to get money to people who have not proven that they have a legal right to be here. Not trying to sound cynical, but sounds like a lot of corruption. The country must work to discourage people from coming here illegally. This needs to get out of the human trafficking business. I'm quoting 65 likes. Let's see here. We'll do one more. 2 more. This one's just a funny name. Can't not say it. Their name is Forget About It. Now, although I'm sure they don't want us to forget the comment, but nevertheless, Forget About It says, quote, don't forget they traveled thousands of miles without prepaid cards and arrived here with a lot of meat on the bones. How do you do that? I'm quoting 115 likes, which, again, saying a lot of meat on the bones is I guess it's an old school saying. I was saying, look, trying to emphasize the point. They don't like that they're starving. You also have Richard Buccini saying, quote, handing out prepaid cards to migrants who entered the country illegally is an open invitation for thousands more migrants to arrive. You can't complain the city is overwhelmed, then initiate benefits that your own residents don't get. These migrants are going to use the free phones you gave them and call their relatives and friends at points across the globe and say, come to New York. The streets really are paved with gold, unquote. Getting 41 likes. And Neighbor did respond saying, quote, stop referring them to migrants. They are illegals. Unquote, getting 23 likes. So again, controversial to say the least. And yeah, in terms of, it came at $350 per week. That's an astonishing amount of money. Granted, it's supposedly for the families. But yeah, in New York City, I mean, the mayor hilariously and hypocritically a couple months ago said their city was overwhelmed. They can't handle any more illegal aliens or migrants, whatever term you prefer. And yet, years ago, that would have got him lambasted as a Republican. They would have roasted him. Because again, they were saying only Republicans care about those types of things. Until it started to affect his city, then he started to say, oh, yeah, we don't have the facilities, we don't have the people, we don't have the infrastructure to actually properly take care of people. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects the city, if this actually exponentially increases the rate in which people are going to New York for those types of benefits. And yeah, it is a stark contrast. Again, one of those comments saying that the general homeless population in New York City, the people who are citizens, they live in those corrugated, rough shelters and they have to share bathrooms. And yet, if you come here illegally, you get a nice hotel room with a maid, a private bathroom, and even a TV. So there's a stark contrast in regards to the government's resource allocation. And it'll be interesting to see what the outcome is at the end of the day. And of course, let me know. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it might just continue to backfire? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapses after a boat rams into it, causing lots of speculation this week. Now, one of the first news articles to have this debut was the BNO News, and they say, quote, breaking, ship collides with Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, causing it to collapse. And it's about a 23-second video where just, the little boat smashed. It looks like it turned right into it. And the whole bridge just collapses darn near immediately. And a lot of people are zooming into the videos saying, it looks like the actual ship's lights turned on and off. I mean, was this just a cliche drunken, not a drunken sailor, but a captain? Or did they lose power to the rudder? I mean, was there a malfunction? Was it hacked? There's a lot of speculation out there, and there's a lot of people also bringing about the contrast of how many ineptitudes there are in terms of, you have planes falling out of the sky, you have roads that are crumbling, you have planes nearly crashing into each other several times, doors really flying off planes, you have boats ramming into bridges. And this went viral, got 99.1 million views and 121,000 likes. I go into the comments. One of the first ones comes from Brick Suit and says, quote, close-up view of the ship losing power twice before hitting the bridge. Note the clip is sped up. And it is a close-up of it looks like the ship lost power once, sailing for a little bit, gained power, turned into the bridge, and right when it looks like right before it hit the bridge, then the power goes out, and comes back on, and then it hits it. And that comment in the close-up of the video clip, that got 16,000 likes and 2 million views. Big Mayor simply said this is really catastrophic, and it's a picture of the bridge all dilapidated, getting 2.7 thousand likes. McManus says, quote, how does this even happen? Like, this is near impossible to occur. My thoughts are with so many families tonight that have no doubt lost loved ones in this avoidable tragedy. I'm getting 9.8 thousand likes. C. Schultz also brought up the point that it lost power twice right before the crash, visible in full footage, getting 3.4 thousand likes. Trey simply says, the incident aside, I strolled through these comments for a good 5 minutes and yet to find a non-AI bot farming comment. Twitter is a mess these days. I'm getting 11,000 likes, which, I don't know, some of these don't seem like it. I mean, there are a couple of cliche ads like, click here for a gift card. Yeah, that's probably a bot or a scam. Film Colossus says, quote, I clicked on this fully expecting community notes about it being an AI generated. I'm getting 1.5 thousand likes. Let's see here. You have Ken Thorax saying, quote, oh, okay. And it's a Venn diagram or a tri-diagram where the three circles overlapping and the circles are named what the F. It got 4.8 thousand likes. White Knight Batman logo says, quote, the government must spend money on infrastructure rather than funding wars, praying for the lost souls. I'm quoting 5.5 thousand likes. Rug, the spoiler alert, the profile picture is in fact of a gentleman, not a rug, but nevertheless, Rug says, quote, this is an absolute devastating. Prayers to everyone involved and their families. I'm quoting 2.3 thousand likes. Tucha says, quote, the bridge must have been so weak and ready to wreck to collapse when hit by a ship. The government is also to blame here because how they're not checking the infrastructure they constructed. I'm quoting 1.7 thousand likes. Alessi Thetis says, quote, just a little impact and it collapsed. No dampening fixtures or shock absorbing. I'm quoting 921 rather likes. Bilford says, quote, the bridge is named after Francis Key Scott, the author of the American National Anthem. I'm quoting 281 likes. Let's see here. Let's see. King Sakuna says, quote, crazy headline from ABC. And it says, quote, Maryland's Francis Scott Key Bridge closed to traffic all after incident, going 158 likes. Let's see. Scrolling down more and more. Festivus 96 says, quote, I don't understand how this happens. It's not like the bridge support just jumped out in front of the ship. Either someone was high or drunk or it was intentional. I'm quoting 808 likes. RB30 said, quote, you think Ukraine could lend Baltimore some money for cleanup and repairs? I'm quoting 369 likes. Well, we did give them about, I think, $200 billion between cash as well as, physical munitions and medical supplies and food. They certainly have some money to spare. Gorsh says, quote, America continues to fall apart. I'm quoting 820 likes. The Foo simply says, speechless. How does this even happen? My God, getting 91 likes. Let's see here. Mr. Make It Happen says, quote, one of my biggest fears is becoming a reality. I'm quoting 46 likes. Let's see. Michael Robinson says, quote, nah, this was an on accident, but they were supposed to be guided. Not everything is a terrorist attack. I'm quoting 68 likes. Joshua Hartley says, quote, Atlas shrugged in real life. I'm quoting 30 likes, which that is a cult classic. I'm ashamed to say I haven't read it yet, though. I need to actually purchase that this week. That's one of the things that's been referenced more and more in modern society. Perhaps just on par, if not a little bit less reference than the classic 1984 by George Orwell, which unfortunately has become all too true. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of the day what kind of analysis is done on the bridge as well as the ship to see, what was the real cause of this? Was it just a simple issue? Could it be a simple issue of the ship just lost power a couple times, or there was an issue with the generator? I'm a little pessimistic on that explanation, to say at least, just because when it comes to IT and many things, including mechanics and ships, usually there's redundancies built in. But let me know, do you think this is just reminiscent of modern society with the quality of infrastructure just completely degrading more and more? As always, be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Subaru to recall about 118,000 vehicles due to an airbag issue. Now, it looks like Subaru of North of America is recalling 118,000 of certain Outback and Legacy vehicles due to a potential issue with the deployment of the airbags. According to the recall notice posted last Friday from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, around 118,723 2020 to 2022 Subaru Outback and Legacy vehicles are affected by the recall. They claim that, quote, this is USA Today, a capacitor in the sensors for the occupant detection system may crack and short circuit, which can prevent the front passenger airbag from deploying in a crash. Subaru dealers will replace the sensors in the front passenger seat free of charge. Letters will inform the owners the safety risks are expected to be mailed by May 21st, and owners will receive a second letter once the remedy for the recall is available. Or just tune into the show, since we seem to recover the recalls about a month before people actually get them in the snail mail. Now, if you want to reach out to Subaru, you can give them their VIN number, see, double check yours is specifically affected by it. They say you can call Subaru's customer service at 1-844-373-6614. Again, the service number for Subaru customer service is 1-844-373-6614. Or you can reach out, you go to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.com, or .gov rather. That's www.nhtsa.gov. Or you can call their hotline at 1-888-327-4236 to see if your specific vehicle is being recalled. But interestingly enough, when it comes to Subaru, most of the business blunders when you're talking about recalls, you're talking about the major manufacturers, which, granted, because of their massive volumes, they're usually affected a little bit more by the recalls in aggregate and get a little bit more news attention. But usually, you have the cliche grenade engine where, thanks to a terribly engineered ball bearing, apparently, you could have the BRZ just catastrophic engine failure. But usually the other platforms are pretty darn durable and reliable. I mean, people, especially in the snowy climates, love those types of vehicles. They seem to be darn near bulletproof. And truth be told, I mean, if I had won the lottery, if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't mind having a Subaru BRZ, or no, I'd run a WRX STI. Definitely would love to have one of those in the garage. I mean, and they come with a stick shift, as all cars should by default, because infinitely more fun to actually enjoy using it. But again, to have that type of blemish on your record doesn't look good. You're going to have vehicle owners go to the actual dealerships, which takes time, money, resource allocation. Then you have to worry about, man, do I have to rent something like an Uber? Do I need to actually, rent a vehicle for a couple days when you're waiting for your vehicle to be fixed? I mean, right now, it sounds like they're still working on the replacement. So they need to have the remediation, tooling, or in this case, I believe it would be a replacement part. So you're going to have to actually replace that sensor and then find out, why did that sensor crack? Is it because of inherent design in that, or is it because of how it was placed in the vehicle? So you're going to have to run further diagnostics. But yeah, good old Subaru. To see their name with a couple of their iconic vehicles being recalled, gotta say, that's certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in. Again, I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, leave a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.